Jessa Smooth Yogurt comes in various flavors like vanilla, strawberry, and banana. Jessa Farm Dairy. Always trusted, always delicious.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right. For better transportation, count for what counts. Census is here from 28th August to 6th September. When you take part in the census, the information you provide is used to make better policies and plans to improve service delivery in your community. Get ready to be counted. Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
Today's highlight.
I need someone to help me. Elsa! Who's there?
It's your shadow, Antonia.
Poncia. I'm so glad you came to see me. So tell me, have Alejandro and David forgiven me? Will they come to see me soon?
Have I told you lately how happy I am?
Oh, yeah? Yes, tell me again, because I love
happy,
hearing
happy, happy, and I love you.
Yes, I love you
so
too.
much, baby.
Today's highlight.
And the change of government won't stop a thing. I've run out of fingers counting the number of multinationals setting up here.
What about the 3 companies that announced their plans to launch last week?
I say there shortly. Me, I'd be looking to sell.
At what price?
More. Much, much more.
I don't know who you are or how you know these things, but one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Every morning we are born again, and so we have a choice to do what is right. This morning, I hope that the right decision for you to join us will definitely pay off. We have an array of items ready for you, not just in the NTV studios at the International Conference Center, but also at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. My name is Brian Mlondo. Welcome to the show that gets your morning and the rest of the day started. Let's check out the question of the day. And of course, that is our simple question this morning. Get started by being a winner. And the reward is very, very beautiful. An NTV mug, of course, for Morning at NTV. Feel free to go to our Facebook page, that is Morning at NTV. And of course, our Twitter handle, which is at Morning at NTV. You can also feel free to tag us on our page, which is NTV Uganda. Our individual handles are also Morning at NTV, at MB Gold 2, at Mebkeb, at Joel Senyonyi, at Kasiate, and at Daka Bachigongo. Tell us how you want this show to improve, and of course, answer that question. Good luck to the first 5 respondents, and you'll each walk out with a beautiful mug. Now, a look at some of the headlines that are making stories this morning, coming up on Morning at NTV.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Once again, a very good morning to you joining us online and of course live on your telly. If you're streaming, youtube.com/NTV Uganda/live. And of course, on to the stories that are making headlines this morning. A number of members of the ruling NRM party have rejected their parliamentary caucus position on delaying the retabling of the nullified anti-homosexuality bill. The caucus that met on Monday at State House in Entebbe with President Yoweri Museveni in attendance agreed that the nullified law be subjected to scrutiny for 1 month by a select committee chaired by the Vice President Edward Sekandi. But the defiant MPs say they will back moves to retable the anti-homosexuality law that was nullified by the Constitutional Court. The NRM legislators accuse their party of delaying tactics and double standards and want Parliament recalled immediately to pass the bill. Solomon Serwanja reports.
On Tuesday, Government Chief Whip Justin Kasule Lumumba announced that the NRM Parliamentary Caucus that met a day earlier in State House Entebbe resolved to go slow on returning the anti-homosexuality bill to Parliament. The MPs agreed that the Attorney General Peter Nyumbi abandons the move to appeal the Constitutional Court ruling that nullified the contentious law on grounds that MPs passed it without quorum. The caucus also resolved to wait for a report from a 9-member committee chaired by the Vice President Edward Chiwanuka Sekandi. The team will study human rights aspects of the nullified law to check conformity to the Constitution and report back to the caucus in 1 month.
We shall then move to table the bill following the procedures, and this time everything will be followed to the letter to make sure it stands all the legal tests.
But some NRM lawmakers are vowing to defy the party resolutions, saying it's a waste of time and a delaying tactic. They are signing to back the immediate recall of the anti-homosexuality law.
I have more 23 members of NRM who have appended their signatures since the NRM caucus, and they have not backtracked.
The MPs include Chairman of the Buganda Caucus Godfrey Chiwanda, John Amasokot, Alex Ruhunda, Agnes Nabide, Vincent Chamadidi, Oliver Katwesije, Naume Kabasharira, Ephraim Biraro, Emma Bona, and Stephen Kangwaje.
The right thing to do is to face the lion the way it comes. The point here is homosexuality is not part of us and shall never accept it to be part of us in this country.
The number of MPs backing the recall of the nullified law now stands at 228, way above the required 1/3 of Parliament, or 125 MPs, which constitutes quorum. Samia Bugwere North MP John Mulimba has been lined up to move the anti-homosexuality bill again when Parliament resumes in less than 2 weeks.
So we are lodging in our petition on Tuesday with the Speaker, and the moment this petition is given to her, of course, there are prescribed number of days within which she must convene Parliament. So as soon as she's back, we are going to table our petition for recall of the House.
A member of the Secondary Committee, Kinkizi East MP Dr. Chris Bariomunsi, says they will persuade the defiant MPs to wait for the committee report.
I think we shall harmonize and reconcile the process with those who are moving in the Parliament to have the issue immediately tabled. The Right Honourable Speaker and our team.
Some of the contentious clauses in the nullified law which the committee will study include Section 1, 2, and 4, which define and criminalize consensual same-sex relations among adults, which those that had earlier petitioned the Constitutional Court say contravenes the right to equality before the law and the right to privacy. Section 2 of the nullified Anti-Homosexuality Act imposed a maximum sentence for aggravated homosexuality, which is also challenged that it contravenes the right to freedom from cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. The nullified act is also being challenged for subjecting a person charged with aggravated homosexuality to compulsory HIV testing, which those against the nullified law contravenes the right to privacy. Solomon Serwanja, NTV.
There you go. Very controversial bill, of course, and it's making Uganda quite popular in the Western world. We'll be following that story and, of course, giving you more details as and when they come in. Now, moving on. Parliament has intervened in the controversy surrounding the construction of the Standard Gauge Railway line from Mombasa through Kampala to Nimule in South Sudan. The State Minister for Works, John Byabagambi, who appeared before the Parliamentary Committee on Infrastructure, told MPs that there has been an agreement between government and the China Civil Construction Engineering Corporation, SEC, to construct the Standard Gauge Railway.
This memorandum of understanding is not legally binding on any party. Stated here. 3, a dispute or a difference relating to any part of this memorandum of understanding shall be resolved amicably between the two parties.
The delay in constructing the standard gauge rail line from Mombasa through Kampala to Nimule has attracted the attention of Parliament. The House's Committee on Infrastructure has put the State Minister for Works, John Byabagambi, to task to explain why he cancelled the Memorandum of Understanding between government and the China Civil Construction Engineering Corporation. Byabagambi defended his action in saying the Memorandum of Understanding was not for construction of the standard gauge railway.
It is clearly stated in black and white. I think the chairman might be having it here. I can see. Isn't it here? Rehabilitating and upgrading the existing one. Upgrading the existing one, the terms of reference meant to increase the tonnage from 15 to 18 tons. In other words, changing the culverts, have stronger bridges on the existing line. And actually, of a meter gauge, existing line of a meter gauge. And that's the thing I had.
This multi-billion contract has pitted the Ministry of Works against the Attorney General. Byabagambi told MPs that there was no way a memorandum of understanding could turn into an agreement.
When we wrote to Solicitor General that we need to get out of this because it may hinder, it may delay the start of the construction of the standard gauge railway. As we wrote back, what ruling do I get? The man writes to me that the memorandum of understanding has evolved into a contract. Now, that's Attorney General.
Now, on to a story which will make Simon Kasiate definitely interested. The police's traffic department in Katonga region has appealed to the Uganda National Roads Authority to find a solution for the Kampala-Masaka highway, which they say is slippery and not fit to be driven on. Many accidents have occurred on this road, and drivers point to several slippery sections on the highway. NTV's Solomon Kawesa visited some of the black spots.
It sounds like a sweet melody, but rather, it is the opposite. This hymn is for Sandy Rwauga, who was knocked to death by a speeding vehicle as he rode on his motorcycle.
Ati yankubidde bbayi nenjiddamu naye nga ndaba agiremezaayo ate talaba kivaawa kiva eno. Kati kyenva mugamba nti tosala ne mukolera sayini kuba eddoboozi lyadde tuyinza ttooke emmotoka ziyita ne mugamba nti tosala olw'ensonga waliwo ejja mpulira sayini tokola ki tosala bw'atyo teyampuliriza.
He was buried today at his ancestral home in Jalamba. In the space of just 2 months, more than 10 people have lost their lives on the Kampala-Masaka highway, and the police in this region say they have discovered the major cause of the accidents.
When it's raining, always vehicles fail to have the stability on the ground. In most cases, they tell the drivers, when you ask them, they tell you that whenever they try to apply brake system, the vehicle tends to slide off.
The top black spots are in Mpigi, Mitala Maria and Buama. We traveled along this road, but at each of these spots, we discovered that there had been an accident or a recent one.
Tata vile ilikuwa mbele ya minibus. Sasa mimi niko nakuja polepole, hiyo tata inatoka.
Enkuba buli wetonyako niwe bantu netia obefuide bufuirizi. Kowekanga nokwata ku buleki katono nnyo boti. Tosobola kunyweza mmotoka kukola nsoko.
Nze mbeera neneralikirira abaana bano ababeere waka basala oluguudo bagendeyo ku ssomero neneralikirira.
It is 12 o'clock. And this is the third accident we are meeting on Kampala Massacre Road. According to police, such accidents happen during the rainy season and the cause is the slippery road. However, could there be any emergency solution to the problem?
If it is raining, slow down. If I'm driving in the rain, if I'm driving in winter and I'm speeding and I get an accident, I can't blame the road.
We are sensitizing the public from primary schools, riders, then the drivers of vehicles.
Some sections of this road are still under construction. However, even in the parts that have been completed, there are no markings or signs which exposes users to great danger.
Because the road is still under construction, we are going to mark it, we are going to put all the road furniture, we are going to put all the road signs.
The construction of the highway started back in 2009 and was expected to end in 2011. But there is still a lot of work to be done. Solomon Kawesa, NTV.
Well, thank you so much, Solomon. Now, ahead of the big story, we're going to talk about something very important, and we need, of course, your feedback on that. So we put up the question on our Twitter handle and on our Facebook page. Do you agree with the proposal by MPs to extend the national ID registration period? I'll say that once again. Do you agree with the proposal by MPs to extend the national ID registration period? Head on to our Twitter handle, which is at NTV Uganda, and of course tag at morning at NTV. About 11,000 there. Follow us and invite your friends to follow us too. And of course our Facebook page, which is morning at NTV, and of course NTV Uganda. Let's start the conversation before the big story. Now, moving to the gentlemen at the rooftop, Simon and Joel. A very good morning to you, Simon. And the story on the front of the Daily Monitor, holding a lot of water. Actually, also the red paper talking about the anti-homosexuality bill, which is very controversial here. What is so far... what do you guys have to say about this? It's quite scary, especially on the front page of the red paper.
Well, Brian, there is so many stories trending indeed on the front page of the Daily Monitor, including an interesting picture of yourself and your wife hugging each other. I think one of these days we should now, crown you the king of the newspapers and family publicity. Every topic, there is Brian Mulondo here. Well, the other where you are not possibly is about MPs who dodge committee listed, but your story seems to mean that you do not dodge any family responsibilities, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Very many other interesting stories in the Daily Monitor, the red paper, and of course today we've got the Independent of Ewan Mwenda, where his last word is talking about the behind the scenes at the Africa-American Summit, where he starts off his first sentence as saying, last week we were in Washington, D.C., writes Mwenda. Interesting. We'll be right back with these and many other stories. Welcome back. It's a wonderful Thursday morning. August the 14th, 2014, just one day after the Katikkiro of Buganda, Oweekitiibwa Charles Peter Mayiga, paid a courtesy call at Narubari Power Station, operated and maintained by Eskom Uganda Limited, yesterday to receive his share of Etofali. Quite an epic celebration there, and I'm sure much of that publicity will be coming to you in the papers and, of course, on televisions as we go on along today. But just to tell you what's on the front page of the Daily Monitor this morning, I am with my good old friend Joel Senyonyi. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning.
Yesterday you missed the Katikkiro at
yes, it's Etofali. How much did you guys collect?
We gave a hefty 5 million Ugandan shillings from our coffers as Eskom Uganda Limited. But of course, the subjects of the king and other well-wishers put together a quick harambe within an hour just before he came and collected over 300,000 Ugandan shillings, just, from, Gwanga Muje kind of arrangement. But it was quite an interesting feat for him to come around. And, to tell you a bit of a history of that dam, it was about 68 years ago when a Katikkiro of Buganda, Ernest Kawalia Kagwa, in a Luchiko sitting, yes, made an appeal to the British, say, look, one of those things that is going to catapult this protectorate of yours into spiral development will be the presence of electricity, water, piped water, and a sewerage system. In fact, he was even nicknamed the Prime Minister for electricity and water and sewage. 5 years later, construction began at that site, which was then Ripon Falls, and 60 years down the road, we've got the Narubari Power Station, firing away 180 megawatts. Now operated and maintained by Eskom Uganda Limited. Quite an epic thing. So his visit was not so much about collecting Etofali, but was touching base on an initiative that was started by one of his predecessors to see how long that power plant has come. And I can tell you, he found it in very good health for its age.
Wow, 5.3 million shillings in Etofali collections. NTV Uganda, you are challenged by Eskom. I hope you can contribute twice. If you gave 1 million the other side, you can bring 2 million this side.
The Katikkiro said he will return, because you see, Etofali contribution is a recurrent thing. You don't do it once and then say you are done. It is a recurrent thing. It's more like a division of including a number.
How we can do a Etofali kind of, happening with things like hospitals in this country? Because look, our government is supposed to fix these things. We have waited too long. It's not doing some of these things. So I hope we can.
I think the next Etofali we should collect is possibly getting ourselves new members of parliament. Because you see, when you get a parliamentary chamber like the one I'm seeing in the newspapers this morning in the Daily Monitor, empty, almost to nothing. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4 people on the NRM side that has got over 200 legislators. I can count those in the frame are also about 2.5 from the opposition side. And then the headline...
And that is plenary, the headline.
Plenary. Now, they were claiming that they dodge plenary because they're very busy with the committee work. Now the Daily Monitor has come to give us a very good expose of members of parliament who dodge committees, and they are listed here, including the Kampala woman member of parliament, Nabila, who was holding hands and swinging around and singing chants of "We shall not tolerate homosexuals." I think for the most part, anyway, I don't say I would rather tolerate a homosexual than a member of parliament who doesn't attend to their duties, but I think both of them are equally as bad. Because if you have a responsibility and you're not doing it, then clearly I don't see whether you have a place in grandstanding and showing off when it is just one issue of the 100 issues that are bedeviling this country, and yet you're a member of parliament paid by taxpayers' money to legislate. You actually collect these emoluments of yours. You are swiping, your fingers are almost fading from swiping away on an iPad paid for by the state. You're pounding a fuel guzzler on the streets of Kampala. You park your car in a 28 billion shillings car park complete with the security.
And they want security of how much?
Almost the same amount of money.
We are told here several MPs attend less than 10 meetings out of an expected average of 6.
I hope this is not true, because when I see Dr. Christopher Yomons, who's been going all over the place to cut this very umbilical cord that possibly fed him, that is tobacco growing in Kanungu, he has attended one committee of the 28 committee meetings of the health committee. For me, this is a travesty. What does Baryomunsi do? He's my friend, yes, but I thought, he is a parliamentary commissioner.
No, he's not anymore.
By the time he missed this, I'm sure he must have been somewhere in commission work. Even you, Semu Junganda, he attends more capital gang sittings than parliamentary committee sittings. This is a travesty.
I hope our MPs can hear our cries and get to style up like I did hear Odonga Oto say, though his styling up was related to something totally different. The lizard here says, are they hiding from data? I don't know.
I do not know. Even Mike Mukona tries, at least has attended 7 of 34. He has attended 0 of 20. John Ken Duchamus 5 of 19, 4 of 17. But he will be very quick to appear at a site where illegal encroachers on a rail reserve have been rightfully evicted, and he starts making all these comical antics. I think people must realize that they are members of parliament legislate in parliament and not...
Without a doubt, and that's why, you see, for me, my issue actually, you know, with the recent court ruling about the anti-homosexuality law, people have been hounding the courts of law saying, you people, you are lousy, and so on and so forth. I'll tell you with all honesty, my issue actually is not with the courts of law. Because if they said this law was passed illegally, why should it be the case? You know, so let MPs be available, do their job, and at the end of the day, if courts were to say, all right, we have issues with the contents, etc., then I would face them head on. You know, but saying there was no quorum, I think they are right in every sense of the word.
Well, there you have it. Quorum is always the biggest problem that we are grappling with. And still on the front page of the Daily Monitor, quite very sad news there, and a graphic picture of a grisly accident in Fort Portal, where it is reported here that a pastor did die while 5 others were critically injured. I see a Fuso truck that rammed into a small vehicle and some border debris here. Quite a scene. Get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor to get a feel of what exactly is trending in Fort Portal.
Corruption claims, opposition MPs told to plead their innocence in writing. Now, of course, there's been this talk of 110 million shillings given to opposition MPs to apparently buttress them from their debts and that kind of thing. And the leader of opposition is saying, all right, for those of you that are innocent, do so. Do your pleading of innocence by writing. But of course, we keep saying, we want to hear those names. You know, he talked about 18 members of parliament that received this money, the opposition members of parliament. We want to hear them. That's like we see these others exposed.
Yeah, again, it's the same grandstanding I keep talking about. So, I mean, anyway, just so that you know, a bunch of disappointment. 2 years down the road, I'm telling you, I am grapplingly suffering from the ineptitude of this, especially this parliament. The deceit, the sheer deceit, the sheer hypocrisy. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm asking myself, how much business they have before them when they started their journey? How much business have they been able to accomplish? And how much have they fallen on the sword of the very vices they accuse others of doing? And I'm talking about the bigger sword, which is corruption. But talking about which, former permanent secretary in the Ministry of, in the Prime Minister's office, now permanent secretary in the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Social Welfare and Workers, Pius Bigirimana, has launched a book. The book is titled Corruption, A Tale of Wolves in Sheep Clothing. Quite an interesting one. And for some reason, the president launched this book. And I think that, like they say, when the Messiah was looking out for disciples, he picked up Simon Peter and his brother Andrew, who were fishermen. And he said, come ye, and I'll make you fishers of men. And I want to believe that someone like Pius Bigirimana, who has been at the center, not as a perpetuator, but perhaps as someone who has seen corruption under his nose flourishing so much, possibly is the best person to tell us and write such a book, A Tale of Wolves in Sheep's Clothing. I am imagining that soon people like Obey or even Kazinda, when he comes out of his incarceration, will write a more insightful expose of how deep this vice of corruption is.
I'd want to hear their side of the story as well. You know, this is a book I hope to get a hold of and, you know, see what the gentleman is talking about. But I'd want to hear the other sides of the story because without a doubt, I'm sure in this book he exonerates himself and that kind of thing, which is okay. But we want to hear every side of the story, what did transpire, etc., etc. But very ironical. This president here says that he stood by Bigirimana because he read the Auditor General's report and found no incriminating evidence linking him to the OPM scam. So there you have it.
Well, government is in high gear to avert one huge problem that's bedeviling us. The absence of a uniting single prayer. This country needs one prayer to unite all of us. Muslim faith, the pagans like
who?
Like some of you watching us, the atheists, the Mama Finas of this world, the strong born-again Christians like you, Joel, the devout Catholic like myself, all of us, government is trying to formulate one uniting prayer for all of us. So that as we pray as one. There is no segregation of now. Let's start with this one who will start by a chant, the one who start by the sign of the cross, the one who will start by a yell. All this is being formulated by someone in the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity in the office of the President. Like our motto, for God and my country, is not unifying and good enough and divine enough. Like our own anthem, where we seek divine intervention, is not good and unifying enough. And then you see all these grand standards. We cannot allow laws that are a travesty to our own national motto. Granted, does our national motto for God and my country allow for this kind of absenteeism we see in the parliament? Does our motto for God and my country allow for this pillaging of national resources under the watchful eye of both government and opposition members of parliament? I can tell you, the level of hypocrisy in this country is what's going to sink us down the road.
Single prayer, I'll wait and see what it is like. A single prayer and then what? I love to pray and I pray every day as much as I possibly can. I pray for this country. This country needs lots of prayers, you know. So pray as well as you know how to pray.
You do?
But this single
You
prayer
pray for
here...
us? You pray every day, you pray for us?
I do my best too. Sometimes it's very disheartening
I've been
that
asking
you've got to
myself
pray for
how-
leaders who you think are letting you down, who you think are not delivering as they should, but I pray for their protection. I pray that God gives them wisdom. Sometimes you're thinking, God, why don't you just get a hold of your remote, press stop, eject these leaders out of this place, you know. But
I've been asking myself why, even with all these good meals that you're exposed to and the wonderful aura that NTV does expose ourselves to, you don't grow any bigger than I last met you. I can understand what takes much of your energy. Praying for this country, Joel.
It's a tall order. I'll keep doing my best. I hope Uganda does get better. But besides praying, can we actually get to work? You know, because prayer is not sending God to run on your errands. Prayer is getting you ready to do God's will. And what is God's will for you? Serve your country. Wherever you are, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a presenter, whatever it is that you do. Do it to your very best so that you can serve your country. And hopefully Uganda gets better.
Good luck on that. Now we're going to the red paper this morning. The front page story, which Brian did allude to earlier on, is Homos vow to kill Kadaga. Gays, we are in control of parliament. Can you imagine this? Well, if this story is anything to go by in terms of truth, the homosexual folk in this country accuse the others of being not only homophobic, but of being intolerant of their way of life. Now, if you accuse someone of being intolerant of your way of life, why should you be seen to be so intolerant of their intolerance towards you that, in fact, you are vying to kill them? Isn't that a case of a pot calling the kettle black?
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
Because
I wanna, you know, it's disturbing. To, you know, why do you have a case to put across that you need to be recognized and, you know, people should accept you as those who love differently, who love people of their own same sex? Fair enough. But I think you must also keep it within the realms or the dictum of basic decorum, which you accuse others of not having.
Without a doubt, and that's why we get bothered when we see, I don't know, so-and-so has been denied a visa to go and travel because of, you know, for, I don't know, whatever engagement it is, because they are, you know, accused of being homophobic and that kind of thing. So the intolerance cuts across, and these guys, so for that matter, should stop huffing and puffing, making noise, saying, you discriminate against us, etc., etc. It is the same thing they're doing. So having a taste of their own medicine, I don't know. Quote of the day here, this is by President Museveni to the youth. If you think sex is like grass and everywhere you go you want to have sex, then we shall refer to you as the late, even when you are still alive.
Well, that is him speaking at the National Youth Day
International Youth Day,
where the theme was unleashing young people's potential. Maybe Mr. President needs to understand that maybe part of that unleashing of young people's potential is going around fixing trees wherever they see holes, and that is spoken metaphorically. Well, President Museveni says he's going to be more dangerous at 70.
That's in the red paper.
Yes, in the red paper. President says he is a very healthy man. So if you
so the danger connotes what? Danger to the opposition?
That's
danger
why
to...
you need to get yourself a copy of the red paper and take a read on what exactly he means by this statement.
All right, somebody does ask here, do parents monitor their children? Children are on holiday. You need to keep a very good grip on these, your young little ones. Of course, that doesn't mean you hound them a great deal, leave them with no space at all, but be as good parents as you possibly can.
Well, of course, the red paper does have many other stories, interesting, coming in from all regions of the country. And of course, for those of you who like it nice and slow on the Thursday, you can get yourself a copy of the red paper to read those laid-back stories that possibly put a grin on your face or possibly tears down your cheeks. Whatever way you want to look at it, the red paper has the package right for you. Going over to the Independent this morning, an interesting expose here of the standard gauge railway. Now we're told by the Independent that 8 billion railway deal mess. Museveni is blamed as details of meetings are exposed. This investigative reporter Hagai Masiko digs into who exactly issued what memo, who stopped what. All the time we've been huffing and puffing and blaming Minister John Byabagambye, but looks like he was acting under the strings and control of somebody else.
There was powers from above.
Well, it's going to become eventually like the ID project. Well, we are glad that it eventually took root, but you could see the machinations that went around in trying to get exactly who does provide the kind of infrastructure that was supposed to be used. And so there we have it.
Okay, somebody here says I drove 80 kilometers to prove my love. This is one, who is this Chigai? Is this Brian Mulondo? 80 kilometers to prove your love. All right, good for you, good for you.
Well, he says he cried before she could say yes. I am just imagining the sight and sound of one of Brian Mulondo.
Right.
I think maybe you should just give us a simulation tomorrow, or perhaps after this, when I link back to you to give us the what's happening on the international news. Brian, I would love to just get a feel of that little cry that you belted out just to prove that you love somebody. I'm sure you love this show, Brian. I'm sure you love we guys. Come on, cry to show how much you love us. Well, let's go over to the Independent.
There's a guy I know who asked the lady, if I propose to you, would you say yes? And the lady said, of course I would say yes. And the guy said, you must be joking. The lady said, well, you started it. The joke, that is. But good for Brian. That's not the way it went for him, USA.
Well, in the last word here, coming in from Mwenda in the Independent, he is writing about the behind the scenes of the African-American Summit. And the kicker is why Africa needs trade and investment from America, not lectures on democracy and human rights. Now, I just like his opening line. He says, and I quote, last week we were in Washington, D.C. to attend the America-African Summit. Now, if you remember, this summit was supposed to be for African leaders. And interestingly, Mwenda is one of those African leaders who was in there. So get yourself a copy of the Independent and get to read exactly what was this behind-the-scenes kind of machination that Mwenda was all up to, and what he viewed in there, and what he means by Africa needs trade and investment from America and not lectures on democracy and human rights.
In the business section of the Daily Monitor here, it's reported that African government's economic failures fueling brain drain. This is according to one expert. I believe them without a doubt. You know, our challenge is, you know, we keep hounding these doctors that go to Rwanda, South Africa, to the UK. They are not patriotic, etc., etc. But I cut these fellows some slack. Look, if somebody is offering you a better deal, however patriotic you are, at the end of the day, you've got to put food on your table. So we need to give these people reason enough to stay around and work here.
We're talking about that standard gauge railway here. The interesting story is very graphic here, very deep and detailed. In fact, it is also showing more like, should I call it a dichotomous ski or should I call it a food chain? And at the top of this ski is a one, quite very interesting. It's a read that you shouldn't get yourself messed up with. But it's also one that is giving you the chronology of events from the time this idea was mooted to the time where it seems to have been booted. Get yourself a copy of The Independent this morning to get a look at how deep some of these stories get when it comes to corruption, manhandlings or mishandlings.
And you see, that's what we keep hearing for every deal, whether true or not. You know that there is this above influence, etc., etc. Deals keep getting botched, but my issue is accountability. Money is disappearing. We are talking about the ID issue, for example. You know, time and again we've lost money, I think twice, billions of shillings, and we just wrap it up nicely and say, all right, this one failed, let's engage another one. And you're thinking, all right, so how about the monies that we lost? Who should be accountable?
You mean, even you, the Independent, when we're writing about eviction of illegal encroachers on a railway reserve, you are going to pour on us the plight of those who were evicted. What about those of us who are happy that this eviction did take place? Now I can see one Patrick again writing, KCCS Night Riders. Railway reserve eviction leaves tears in its raid. Well, you can as well change that headline kicker and say, railway reserve evictions leave joy on the faces of many who found that kind of establishment along railway and road reserves an eyesore in the city they would love to call home. This whole journalism thing of trying to pattern the
sentiments. That name sounds familiar, a friend of mine. I don't know what it's trying to mean, but no, I think it's trying to be as charitable.
I will have a father-to-son talk with him, and he knows what I'm talking about. Where he's the father, I am the son.
There you have it, you know. But I'm thinking it's probably bringing the angle of... because like I did say the other time, I wanted the law to take its course. I want these people evicted. But do I empathize with them? Am I charitable towards them? Of course I am. You know, I gave the example of you're trying to treat somebody, you've got to harm them in a way. So that good comes through at the end of the day. So there you have it.
Well, there is an interesting news analysis when it comes to political matters in the country coming in from The Independent this morning. We are looking at an interesting story where the question is, what is FDC's problem? Members of the FDC are saying General Muntu 600 days reign on FDC have done one thing, kill the party. It is all here in The Independent. How has it killed the party? Get yourself a copy of The Independent now on the streets. How much is it? 5,000 Ugandan shillings, but if you have
I thought it's free of charge, not for sale.
This is my
That's
copy.
our copy.
My copy. Then, of course, if you got Kenyan shillings, you pay for it at 200 shillings. And if you have got those Rwandese francs, you prefer to call Amafaranga, it's 1,500.
But, you know, cutting some slack to General Muntu, I think there are people there who have determined we're going to fail him. The other day we did get reports that MPs, for example, within the party are saying we're not going to pay they're meant to make a monthly contribution towards the party and that kind of thing, you know. But, you know, he's a good, calm, collected, easy man.
That is precisely where his biggest problem is. You see, FDC
but
is
why?
not
For a leader, you don't have to, you know, be very
but
aggressive and out there.
FDC's ideology from the beginning, the way I understand it, given my experience in covering FDC activities from as early as 2000, when I started this trade, it was a party that was supposed to have come in with some level of combative assault on the establishment.
And has it worked for so many years?
You see, for them, you see, there was this whole thing of galvanizing. I told you, and in two ways, be militant in terms of speech, in outlook and all that, and then be opposition in the literal sense of the word. Tea is good for the body, says Museveni. Tea is bad for the body, says FDC. Brian Mulondo should not cry when he's saying he loves his wife, says Museveni. When you're in FDC, Brian Mulondo should cry. You know, that kind of polarization. Muntu is the guy that seeks to toe a middle line. To find a Kasiate who sits on the fence, he's disenfranchised by the goings-on in the NRM, but he's not trusting of the kind of seeming likeness of the FDC to the NRM on the opposite side. He tries to appeal to those on the fence so they can make a decision on where to jump. That, for the most part, has not appealed to the very radicalized extreme of the FDC, who believe that the oomph in the party, that galvanization around the leader, which is supposed to, you know, mobilize demonstrations, hard-hitting statements, you know, showing the other person the middle finger, all this has not happened under General Muntu. And in that case, without a doubt, I think FDC has died. Because this is not the FDC I used to know.
I see this gentleman, well, of course, yeah, in that sense. There are people who feel like it has crumbled and so on, you know, but he moves around talking to young people. And he's not just telling them, you know, politics run around. He's telling them, look, you can get engaged in, you know, economic activities, etc., etc. I think Muntu is a man with a very good head on his shoulders. He would make a good president for this country, I think.
Well, more news here in the Independent. In health, we are looking at Ebola and medical ethics. We are looking at reducing malaria death in infants. And, of course, there's another interesting analysis on the ID project. Slow start, let rush. And, of course, other interesting op-eds coming in from different people, including Member of Parliament for Youth in Central Region, Patrick Nakabale, who says give police more power. I don't think FDC would like to hear something like that.
Yeah, he will kneel before them, just like he did kneel at Chankwan's, and was it Entebbe? So what do you expect from him anyway?
Well, tell us more in the Daily Monitor as we wrap up this morning.
I see somebody here saying involved youth in decision-making. 5 Asians raped woman surgeon. Raped woman. This is according to surgeon. You remember that story that...
I thought the 5 Asians were back at it and they are now raped a woman surgeon.
Unfortunately not. But later of the day as we wind up, China's grip on Africa is stronger. Is this news? I don't think so.
Well, a given indeed. And of course, talking about China, we know that Pope is on his way to South Korea. And on his way, he did fly over China and he addressed some Chinese leaders. We know that he's in Asia, the first Asian visit of his papacy to attend to a huge Asian youth conference that is trending on the international scene. Maybe I am told you've just joined Brian Mulondo in the studio. Is he about to cry to show his undying love for you? Well, I'm glad that you are with him there. But yes, Brian, if you're standing by Mabel, you're standing by in the studio, please share with us what exactly it is on the international scene. But if it's on the Mabel, can you imagine Mabel? The silhouette, or should I say the exact impression of Brian Mulondo crying to say I love you. That would have been a very nice Friday story.
I actually have him here live and I want him to explain. You actually cried?
So you see, Simon, you need to employ as many tactics as possible to make sure that the woman is indeed convinced that you love her. So I had to be a little bit ingenuous and innovative. So that's what it's about.
Were those real tears over crocodile tears?
Both. But you see, Mabel, wouldn't that soften your heart if you're a lady? And it would kind of convince you as a woman, and you're like, well, the guy is actually, he means what he's saying.
Maybe I should. A man has never really cried for me.
What? Real men cry.
Really?
Yes.
So then the ones in my life I should throw out and wait for the one who cries.
Just throw them out. Well, of course, you can grab a copy of the Daily Monitor and get to know what's happening in the story. Read the real the real story, okay? Not just
From the horse's mouth. Have you read it? Because
Yeah.
sometimes these newspaper people add things.
No, I trust
okay.
Daily Monitor. But of course, reminding you that ahead of the big story, we are going to talk about the extension of the national ID registration period. Go to our Morning at NTV Facebook page. We've put up the question and let us know what you think. And of course, on our Twitter handle at Morning at NTV. Feel free to tag at NTV Uganda, at MB Gold, at Kasiate, at Mebke. We'll be looking at your comments or during the big story. Now, as I leave you to go and join the guys, please tell us about what's happening on the international scene.
Okay, we will start with Ferguson, Missouri, the small town that has been in the spotlight because of the teenage boy who was shot dead by the police. Now, it is really interesting because people are saying there was actually a fight in the car, according to witnesses. Some witnesses say the boy surrendered, had his hands up. Others say that he actually refused to be arrested, and that's why the policeman shot him. And the fact that also the police are not naming the policeman who shot him has also been an issue. This is a town that has about 60% black people, and in the police force there are only about 3 black police officers. So again, race tensions are very high there. Now, moving on, still on the CNN page, the Russian convoy that we talked about yesterday that was heading to Ukraine actually turned course. It was supposed to get into Ukraine through a particular town, but it didn't reach there. These are 280 trucks. We're not too sure what is in the trucks, either relief goods or ammunition, and thousands of Russian troops are still posted near the Ukrainian border. And as Ukraine's military is putting increasing pressure on pro-Russian fighters. On the Sky News page, Yazida rescue mission is far less likely to happen. Lots of people have been, they're talking about an exodus of massive proportions like in the Bible days. And the Pentagon says airdrops, airstrikes, and the efforts of the fighters have reduced the need of the rescue mission. We have seen people being, hauled up onto helicopters, and it's quite sad as families are separated at that point as they drop food for these people in Iraq. Also on the CNN, on the BBC page, the Ebola outbreak, Kenya is at high risk, warns the World Health Organization. Kenya was vulnerable because it is a major transport hub with many flights from West Africa. This is the most serious warning to date by the WHO that Ebola could spread to East Africa. The number of people killed by Ebola in West Africa is 1,069, according to reports. Robin Williams' death. How should the media report a suicide? There are reports here that following his death, Samaritans and an NGO has said the media should be more responsible when they are reporting a suicide death. This is because it can lead to copycat, other people trying to kill themselves the same way he did. The fact that he was a very well-known public figure. I'm wondering, should they have just kept quiet and said he died at home? But it's quite sad there. Now, moving on, there's a picture here that is just really sad. If this is from our parliament, a handful of MPs attending a session last month. Totally appalling. And this lady was Amantle Monstro, her sample A tested positive for banned substances at the recently concluded Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And now, unfortunately, her B sample has also tested positive. She has 2 weeks to appeal the sentencing, but otherwise she will face a 2-year ban. She is a former 400-meter world champion, and she's from Botswana. On to the Reuters page, exclusive here, the New Link, a pharmaceutical company, says the Ebola vaccine trial could start in a couple of weeks. It is this New Links Genetics Corporation, which licensed an Ebola vaccine developed by Canadian government scientists, has enough doses on hand to launch the first human safety trial of an Ebola vaccine. Remember, the vaccine they have has only been tried on monkeys and not human beings. And we shall end with this story of the Brazil President Campos being killed in a crash yesterday, and this is in a way, is throwing the October election and local financial markets in Brazil into financial disarray. And it's quite sad. A picture here, or an aerial view of the private jet that killed Eduardo Campos, presidential candidate in the Brazilian elections that are yet to take place later on this year. Well, that's all we had for you here from our international desk. Morning at NTV will continue after this break.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Hello, doctor. Hello. Are you feeling okay today?
I should be the one asking you that.
Me, I'm very fine. I'm just calling to check on you. You're sure you're okay? No headache, no fever?
But you, man.
Okay, doctor. Just checking.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you could win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day.
Airtel. Together we can.
We transact every day, and for centuries, currencies have changed hands. Business is a must, and that is why Money Matters makes it a must to talk business.
It's the biggest market out in Uganda because of East African connections and business.
From farming to business trading, we give you all the angles.
When you're harvesting, that one is the most important part, which really have to be there.
We'll bring you all the details that doing business has to offer.
Thoughts of the business leaders in the market.
The airline industry doesn't operate like any other industry, where you go in and buy a shirt and this shirt is 20 shillings today, it will be 20 shillings tomorrow, 20 shillings.
The analysis of the costs and the income in the industries. From wherever we are, we talk business, and at Money Matters, where money indeed matters.
Business is a must.
So, don't miss talking business with us every Thursday only on NTV.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Hello, munakuyange omutima gwaguba.
Records.
Abakyala ab'embuto naffe ab'ebitiibwa koona ssaawa 4:30.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Welcome back from the break. Remember, we asked you if you agree with the parliamentarians or as to whether the date for the registration for the national ID should be extended. Lots of your messages coming in on Facebook. Remember, our handle is at Morning at NTV, as well as Twitter, Morning at NTV. We shall be sampling them a little bit later. But now over to Simon for today's big story. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Mabel, and indeed the big story this morning is discussing along the rims of the national ID registration. This morning we are pleased to have somebody in the thick of this registration who will be, of course, giving us an analysis of how far they have gone, how far they intend to go, and of course I also be making my own personal revelation on whether or not I have registered. So that's something you should look out for and keep yourself braced for. It has actually been. Well, I'm sure many of you, at least about 15 million of Ugandans, did go heed the call of government to go and register for your national ID. 15 million, not a small number. And this is a call that came in on the 14th of April, and the closure was just a couple of days ago. You can be very sure of the 15 million. Poor me. I am not one of them. I'm those who thought there was going to be an extension almost immediately, and woe and behold, it just did not come my way as soon as I expected it. But no sweat, as looks like I have to go down to my sub-county to get my credentials entered into the log. This morning, we are having a discussion with the Deputy Project Manager, National ID Project, Betty Nasenja, who has been here twice before, if I recall.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Simon.
How are we proceeding with this national registration thing? I mean, we are many of we Ugandans who, having taken cue from Uganda Communications Commission, who threatened to lock our unregistered mobile phones when we clock the deadline. They've never done so a year after the deadline. We've had all these extensions for voter registration. We've had all these extensions for this registration, extension for that. And we expect there would be an extension.
Okay.
Why couldn't you give us an extension? Let's start from there, Betty.
Thank you, Simon. First and foremost, we have so far done so well as a project. You must take note of the fact that this project is actually being run within very strict timelines and very strict targets. And there was no need for what I'm going to call an extension in quotation, because the project is still on schedule. We have not stopped actually registering the Ugandans. We are still there, and we are just saying that within phase 1, we have come to the end of phase 1 within phase 1, and that is registration at the parish level. And we are saying that now we are stabilizing the system of registration by taking it a little higher to the sub-county level. And we are saying that by the time we closed mass enrollment on Monday, we were threatening 15 million Ugandans registered. And
Wow.
I think that is really, really a big success. Congratulations, Ugandans, for those of you who came. And for those who did not come, indeed, it's not just about you. Uganda is part of the 15 million who have so far registered. And for the one person who has not yet registered, as
Myself.
Simon, Uganda is not just about you. And
I
the
have
call
since
for
got-
registration...
I've just realized, I thought, you know.
The call for extension actually was not called for. Indeed, we know that you're still there, still unregistered. About 3-point-something million Ugandans are still unregistered. But yes, we have covered you between now and 27th of February next year. We are still there, and we'll still get you. We'll register you and put you as part of our national identification register.
I'm not the only person who's not been registered, need like you've just said, and this was perhaps a commission or omission on my side. But I'm told there is a category of Ugandans who, even if they so much wanted to be registered, have not been registered and not taken care of. What's your plan for them? And we're talking about people in incarceration, in prisons.
Yes, the national ID is indeed a right for every citizen of Uganda, including the prisoners. And it's not true that even if prisoners wanted, we will not register them. We are aware that
Would
they
you
are
give them
there.
leave from prison to go and get
We
registered?
are not definitely going to give them leave.
After all,
because
you are the managing ministry, you know.
That's not part of our mandate to give them leave out of their prison sentences. However, the Ministry of Internal Affairs is indeed working out modalities with the prison authorities to see how we can identify them. You know very well that prisons are not only a preserve for Ugandans. There are non-Ugandans within these prisons. So we need to identify them properly as Ugandans within the prisons. So we are working out how do we get the right documentation about the Ugandans who are there. And once we are ready, perhaps after we cover the Ugandans who are already out here, we shall get there to register the prisoners in our prisons.
Well, I hope that when you get on the prison phase and me who was not registered, we don't meet in prison for the registration. Well, let's look at the bottlenecks.
Yes.
I mean, yes, you threatened 15 million Ugandans is an epic performance by all standards, one that doesn't even occasion the need for an extension at parish level.
Yeah.
And let's be very honest here, there must have been a couple of bottlenecks here, and we saw many people crying, hue and cry in hue, and of course this was much coming in from the usual constituency of members of parliament who are always looking for something to jump on and make noise about. Is it true these allegations they were making around that some of your registrars were not up to the task, that much of your infrastructure was not up to the task, meaning that you could have even registered 18 million had it all been put in place?
Everyone must accept that this exercise is not a piece of cake just to eat. It's a very, very complex exercise. Complex exercise in the fact that there are so many huge logistical implications. There are so many parameters or factors to consider for if you're talking about success. And indeed, as I speak, for me, this is big success. Indeed, if we had wanted, if Ugandans had also done their part, there are certain things that we do not have control over. especially when Simon is going to go to the registration center. Some of those things we do not have control about because we were there. We were there from 8 to 6 in most of the places.
Registering
we were there.
one person for
exactly
40 minutes.
Exactly. Not registering one person for 40 minutes. No, there are also cases where we are having people registering 85 people per kit per day. The cases where we are having people registering maybe 10, those were only a few cases where registration operators
by
were
incompetence on the part of registrars or malfunctioning of the equipment or a combination of both.
I don't want to say that occasioned by incompetence of operators. As I said last time when I was here, that first of all, this is electronic equipment. We all have to get used to operating it. Yes, in the first month, all these things were there. The malfunctioning that was due to
in fact, that's why I was waiting for the last day so that your guys have done enough rehearsal, and when I just come, it's bang, bang, bang.
And indeed, we have done enough rehearsal. But I'm saying that in the first month, we had those challenges. But after the first month, all those were clear, but still the queues were not good enough. So what I'm saying is there are things that we did not have control about, and these were, when do Ugandans report? We tried to sound a message out there that we are only here for this time, and if you missed out during this time, you'll have to find us at the sub-county. And indeed, the 15 million who have come, indeed, they have beat the deadline.
Tell me something here, Betty. When you move to the sub-county, of course it reduces on the number of stations, because parishes are certainly more than sub-counties. So what does that mean? That if they were in an area that has 10 parishes under one sub-county, do we have all these 10 registration kits going to the sub-county level? That when I arrive at the sub-county headquarters, I will find a desk of 10 units, then I make a choice of which queue to join? Or will you lay off 9 and just take 1 up the sub-county? And therefore subject even the few who are waiting to other long queues?
First of all, we don't believe that there are going to be long queues at the sub-counties because it's only about 3-point-something remaining to be registered. And we are saying that all the parishes indeed within a sub-county will have to come to this sub-county for registration. And we are going to have only a few registration officials maintained during this phase. Why? Because again, I said that there are logistical implications. There is an issue to do with how are you going to pay them if you maintained all of them? And indeed, that was the phasing of the project. We did not want to carry huge operational costs at that level up to this time. And that's how it is structured. But we are saying that the burden of registration, again, is still with you, the citizen. You have to report for registration. But whenever, as and when, somebody approaches our registration officials at the sub-county, and there are still huge numbers within a particular parish, we have what we call the mobile outreach registration centers. If you came to me and you told me, Madam, I have too many old people in this area, I have too many people still unregistered, I have PWDs in this area, we will come and outreach to this population, and we shall do enrollment at that level.
So are you doing this for those who are indisposed, say in hospitals, and like you pitch camp at Mulago and say, attendants to perennially sick people come and register from situ there because they possibly are there for the long haul?
For cases like hospitals, it's a different arrangement. But we are talking
about... Have you had, is that arrangement there?
Yeah,
now?
Those arrangements are there.
I'll have to give a call to my friend Enoch, who is the spokesperson of Mulago Hospital, to tell me whether something has been done. Or if he hasn't, approached you, maybe he should. He
should, because we are saying that come and approach the registration officials. And modalities indeed would be worked out for the outreach centers to places like those ones. But for the PWDs, for the elderly, we are saying that, yes, we know you are incapacitated for one reason or another. So we shall find you.
Sound your alarm and we'll come and find you.
Yes.
But that said, let's get down to the individuals that were involved in this registration project. Kudos to you. You gave a number of jobs to people who otherwise would have had not much to do during this period.
Yes.
But can we say that they are walking away with a smile on their faces? Or if I interviewed any one of them, they would possibly have a story of... we were not paid, we were promised heaven and only given a bit of hell.
Yeah, of course, I would say that people are walking away with smiles on their faces.
Are they?
And for those who are not yet paid, there are cases where they received monies quite late. I'm very sure the modalities are in place to sort out any person who has not yet been paid. And even at the end of the exercise, we are having certificates of appreciation being issued to all of them who have participated in this rather historical national exercise. And indeed, they should not actually lose the smile, because who knows?
You've given them the
come
amount
again,
of experience that will possibly put them in position to be employed by our good friends at Uganda Bureau of Statistics as we go into the census.
Exactly. And remember, we still have another phase for card issuance. Card production has started, and we are going to call upon again people to come back and say that participate in the card issuance exercise, because for those who have already registered, card production is already ongoing, and once we are ready, we are still going back to the parish to issue.
How many of these guys did you employ, roughly?
We employed about...
A million people?
How many?
A million?
Not a million.
How many kits did you have? Okay, let's say, how many kits did you deploy in the country?
We had 8,000 kits
let's
out
assume every
in the country,
kit had,
and every kit had 2 registration officials, and that was just about registration. We had parish level supervisors, we had sub-county supervisors, we had what we call the parish verification committee. The number is really huge.
So we're talking about something like about 30,000.
It's more than 30,000.
Well, there you have it, jobs that were available for the ID registration, and there you are, you of the Jobless Brotherhood, carrying coffins across the city and demonstrating against jobs when some jobs could have been here up for the taking. Betty, as we conclude this program, let's look at the outlook. When this is all said and done, and you're done with the registration of people 16 years up to the end, when do we expect you to return to do the registration of those who were younger, those between 0 and 16 as at the time when you stopped? Shall we have such a mass registration, or will registration also take the form of going at the point of birth, where as someone gets their birth certificate, their details are taken then and blah, 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 blah? Of course, one wonders whether fingerprints are always secure for a one day old baby.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Obviously, the modalities for registering children are going to be a little bit different, because this time round we shall not be getting their fingerprints. At that time, they are not mature enough to be anything sensible for the AFIS system that we have put in place. But what is important is that even children are going to be issued with the national identification numbers, and indeed it is these numbers that these children are going to carry right from their point of birth up to when they die. And when they get 18, when we issue them national identity cards, that number is still the one going to be on the
But their
national
features will
ID.
have to be updated, like a picture on the card, the fingerprinting and all that.
When they get to the point when we issue them with a card, that is when we take their picture, that is when we take their fingerprints. But at the point of registration, we capture what is important. We shall capture the number of the parent. We have to link that child to the parent, indeed, to the number of the parent, and we also give them their own identity. And it is that identity that they carry right through nursery school, through PLE, through O-level, A-level, until university.
That's
for those
assuming
who
they
go
go through that
school. But even if they do not, still any person who will be in Uganda, if you call yourself a Ugandan, you'll have a national identification number right from the point of your birth, for those that are going to be registered after June 2016. And the reason for June 2016 is because we want to leave a period that is free for electoral activities. As you are aware, we are approaching towards that time.
So that your registration is not seen as a campaigning gimmick for a certain category of
That is right, that is right. And we shall also be registering the alien foreign residents in the country.
It would never have been a better session spent with you on the big story, Betty Nasenja, the Deputy Project Manager, National ID Project. And of course, for you, our viewers, you'll now notice that NTV being the station of firsts, since yesterday, your views on the subject matter are always being scrolled on the screen so that you are able for a moment to see on the screen what your views are. Now, of course, this is an epic innovation from NTV, as always leading the pack, but I also want to appeal to you to be responsible in your views. I know that there is freedom of speech and expression, but I am strongly, personally, averse to the abuse of those freedoms. Let's all realize that they are freedoms, yes, but these freedoms come with responsibilities, and some of the responsibilities hinge around the commentary that should be based on basic decorum, and of course, the absence of use of abusive languages, which many of you have become, sadly, professionals at. If you do not agree with a view that is shared on this program, fair enough, but you have no right to denigrate my guest or even myself. Let's take a short break and return. It's Simon Says. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Morning at NTV's big story, as always, does give a deeper, or should I say, places the floodlight or the spotlight onto a subject matter, and we try to dissect it from all angles. This morning we've been talking about the national ID registration, and of course we've learned that mass registration at parish level since came to a halt, and this has been escalated to the sub-county level. Are you one of the 3-point-something million Ugandans who have not registered, including myself? Well, this is just to say that there is plenty of chance for you to go hit this call, get yourself registered until around, did you say 14th of February next year?
27th of February.
27th of February next year, almost towards the end of February. And after that, possibly you may have to seek some other remedy for you to be on that log. But of course, like I have said repeatedly when I host Betty on this show, let's hit this program. This program means well. Let them as the organizers or government fail on their duty. Let them have logistical challenges. Let them fail to be competent as we expect them. But that is their problem for which we shall hold them accountable. Let it not be your reason as not to show up for registration because you assume or imagine that the registering point is going to be so perhaps far away from you, the registrar is going to be not up to the task, and the kids are not going to be working as you expect them. It is your responsibility as a citizen to be part of the log of this country, so that that national ID does serve the purpose for which it was created. And of course, you know the purposes for this national ID are many, to the point that perhaps life may be very difficult for any citizen who does not have their national registration intact. Again, to take you back as we conclude on the issue of feedback from you, our esteemed viewers. We appreciate your feedback without a doubt, except if it is not within the realms of basic decorum and decency. I appeal to you. Yes, we know we have got all this cyber engagement and all that, but for many of you, we understand the psychological effects that you possibly are grappling with. Please do not spew them on our screens. If it is about discussion, let's discuss the issue. In fact, I hasten add, let us always discuss the issue and not personalities. The moment we do that, then we are being productive, like I've already told you, then we are moving the quality of our programming from one stage to another. And of course, we do that all in the best interest of you, our viewers, and of course, setting the trend and being the trailblazer in TV broadcast in this country. Have a good morning. We meet same time, same place with yet another insight into another big story. But of course, Morning at NTV does continue. There is more other segments yet to come, including, and of course, not limited to the sports section. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right. For better transportation, count for what counts. Census is here from 28th August to 6th September. When you take part in the census, the information you provide is used to make better policies and plans to improve service delivery in your community. Get ready to be counted. Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
Coming soon on NTV.
Dang, I suck at women. Because you can still think about her, but she's gone.
You should always approach a girl when she's surrounded by guys.
Attractive women are the most insecure. That's why they spend more time in the mirror than other women.
What if a needy people pleaser, desperate, forgettable, replaceable, boring guy?
And how to deal with the obstacle, her friend.
One thing I want is money.
Imagine.
I mean, how dare you come to me, all dirty and shabby, looking like a war truck from Afghanistan.
I've been given a challenge to go up to those streets, get enough numbers of very hot girls.
Excuse me? So what do you do apart from looking good?
0702.
0702.
Coming soon on NTV.
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for their nanny.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Muyai?
It's absolutely true.
I admired President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fascistic code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only the two individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
Hey there, Mr. Krabs! Are you ready to party?
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it, move it.
Wow! Hello, fellow motor enthusiastics.
Oh, Mr. Krabs, isn't there any way for us to return all of them back to normal?
Hey! How do you do that?
The Red Ranger's a bigger problem than I thought.
It's time to finish this thing up!
What can I do to make them love me again?
What are you drawing, Kitty?
Mega Rangers? That's a mega win!
Hello? King Julian, you are truly inspiring. Ow! SpongeBob!
Ekifo ekimu kissa wamusu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli lwakuna butereevu ku NTV Akawungeezi.
On the last episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
The Return.
Besides, I'm the law in this town, and I get the orders around here.
Because I promised my father before you had him murdered. Now I swear it to you. Antonia, you're going to beg me. What about you? Did you trust me?
I went into my office, and where I keep the explosives had been forced open. Only one woman was seen there. It was Gabriela Suarez.
No, that is not true.
The investments this lady wants to make is worth millions. Everything she does is very big.
Annabelle, we've got a problem.
Buddy, you better watch your back.
That's everybody. It's time to add more fuel to the fire.
The Return. La Patrona.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Welcome back. This is our Facebook page. If you haven't visited it, please feel free to do so. Beautiful page with lots of pictures, what happens behind the scenes, as well as commentary from the day's discussions. Now, today we had Madame Nasenje talking about the registration process, the ID registration process, and how it has gone. And to some of your comments, we have Florence Kakasa saying, that is our Uganda. This is in regarding the national card ID exercise. We have Eusto saying, we really need these cards. So when are we going to actually get them? Most people actually asking, when are we going to get them? And Brian's guest is actually here. A nice picture of him. I guess it was drawn by pencil, and the topic as well. So if you want to communicate, be part of it, do head over to our Facebook page, not forgetting our Twitter handles. Good morning, Brian. I can see you've reached the rooftop safely.
Mabel, I'm at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel, and of course we have generated lots of feedback this morning as far as the extension of the National ID project is concerned. And of course, the other day the General appeared before a parliamentary committee and he said he will not extend. As far as the parish level is concerned, no more. Maybe they will move to the sub-county level. But of course, the deputy project manager this morning saying it's open till Feb 2015, but who is going to be taken care of during that period? We've also always appealed to people on this show to go and register, so I guess it's one of those things that Ugandans are maybe lazy. But a couple of your comments on Facebook. Opondo Joseph saying the extension might capture the remaining unregistered 60% of eligible Ugandans. However, I think MPs should also debate how to make the process more effective. For example, there should be a mobile team that registers people from their workplaces and places of learning. That's a very valid point. And Nkugwa Godfrey saying we need each and every 16-year-old Ugandan registered. That's if it's a yes. Lutaya Derek say, and posting his comment in Luganda, echo chebakola kyamagezi kubanga tubalonda. So I guess if we vote them, they should also do us the favor of extending the ID project. Asinje saying, I don't buy it because it's of promoting laziness among the citizens, yet we want a productive population. More than 80 comments in a space of 20 minutes, and we can't read all of those comments, but of course they'll be flashing on the screen on the left-hand side of my screen. They're there and they're going to be going throughout the whole show. Also, on Everyday Life, we'll be having those comments, so please keep them coming. And just one more comment. Joshua Wamwa saying, yes, they should extend because the agents who are doing the work need more money, and some are not fully paid because that some are not registered, most especially students. Yesterday we were joking about the fact that the people who are carrying out the exercise themselves may not be registered. The General, who is the Minister of Internal Affairs, actually registered on Thursday. And so you kind of see some of the disparities here. And Leon Sam Abitekaniza saying that will be better because most Ugandans have not registered and they should be careful because it may be like voters' cards. But I also asked the question, the projected number of registered people was going to be about 14 million people. And government tells us that there's only about 11.5 that have registered. So only 3 million Ugandans left to register. Surely, I think this time it's on us. And like Betty says, it's not an easy job to do. Kibuka Newton, it should be extended because some areas received computers late. An example is Kigaragara Parish in Kisingiro District. In Isingiro District, that's many Ugandans couldn't register in such little time. Wow. I can't read all these comments at once, but also quickly a couple of your comments on Twitter, and it should be extended because there was no sensitization and we are skeptical. Okay, some of us, of course, are not really being honest with ourselves, but continue the discussion on Facebook, on Twitter, and you can also send an SMS to 6565. Now, before marriage, we all have one overpowering emotion, and that is love. It dictates everything. This morning in the Daily Monitor, I've been quoted that I cried. And most of my cameramen are laughing here, but you have to employ all that is necessary to get the girl. But when you get married and everything becomes better, the emotions of hurt, anger, disappointment, fear often dominate. How do you then communicate to your partner that things are not going well? Coming up on Everyday Life. And this morning, joining us is our very own Samuel Setuma. Good morning.
Morning.
I know you as a finance guy, and when I see money, it's all money. And this morning, Samuel Setuma is actually a trained professional counselor.
Yes,
Wow.
I am.
Good morning. Again,
Morning.
nice to see you.
Nice to be here again.
Yes, for the benefit of those who do not know anything, you know, we profiled you on this show, but how TV then, professional counseling, when did you do counseling before you started this?
I was a journalist at first. I went to school to be a journalist. But later on I realized that after the numbers, there is the so what question which is never answered. There is the purpose and meaning in life of helping people. So I went ahead and did professional counseling at school, but also it came from loving people and being interested in people to help them.
Right.
And so I am a journalist, but also a professional counselor.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sam, you start out, you know, loving your partner. Things are going well.
Yeah.
And then because you have established the status quo, you want to kind of continue it even when the marriage is falling to pieces. Other people will decide to cheat. Others will decide to become passive. First of all, what goes wrong when we decide to keep quiet or not do that is required of us when we get into the marriage?
Okay. First of all, the keeping quiet is what is a sign that things are not okay. It's common. Sometimes we experience it off and on, this thing called silent treatment. But then later on, we could abandon it. But you see, silent treatment can start as a small thing, then it grows and becomes a mountain. And there you don't talk anymore. If you have kids, the only issue you talk about in common are the kids.
Right.
And you bottle up on issues that are supposed to concern both of you. And here we're talking about the wife and the husband. There are several scenarios where communication might start to go wrong, even in the early days of marriage. For instance, expression of appreciation. Do you tell her the food was nice when it is actually nice? Does she tell you, maybe you buy something and she says, honey, thank you very much? Or do we say, she's supposed to cook?
That's her job.
Yeah, I'm supposed to buy
I'm
this
supposed
also.
to find good food.
Yeah, but a thank you is the beginning of expression of appreciation. You are smart and she says, honey, you look hot this morning, you look cool this morning. Then you tell her, I like your hair, when you mean what you're saying.
Right.
That's the beginning of communication as early in the marriage, and it should be expressed sustainably. Then there is the big situation of solving conflict. Sometimes the beginning of problems is small conflict, small issues. Here and there, I'm not happy about this and that. For instance, if the guy comes to bed when he has not had a bath, it is irritating you. It's a small issue which is not fundamental.
He has had a long day, walked the streets of Kampala.
Yeah. And he comes in and he hasn't bathed and he goes to bed. And he keeps on doing that. And as a wife, it irritates you. How do you tell him? Do you keep quiet and dismiss it? Remember, it's a thorn, it's remaining as an irritant. For a guy, what could she do? She could have certain small habits which you don't like, but you're wondering, how do I say? How do I tell her? That's communication. You should be able to tell her or tell him about the small things that irritate you, but with tact. How about he comes back and you say, honey, please go and have a bath. Or say kindly.
But how do you communicate to a guy who does not get it? Because, you know, I've talked to, some women will tell you, man, my chana didn't like showering at night. And even when you talk to the guy, it's one of those things, yeah. And then a month later, the chick is still telling you, boss, did you talk to my husband? You know, because things are not changing. How do you talk to a guy who won't just change?
We couldn't prescribe a general solution to every situation. Remember, every marriage is unique. I tell you, it's unique. There are certain things which are similar, but every man and wife have their uniqueness.
Yes.
So the key facet would be on how do you tell this guy? When do you tell him? And also the persistence. While you yourself, you try to do your own part. So as you live by example. So that he, if it is about bathing, for instance, he may not grasp it in the beginning. But as a wife, you have to be persistent, but also don't push and cajole, because when you push and cajole, they become resistant.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but you cannot give up. If she has an issue which irritates you, don't make a fuss of it, but don't give up on it. We cannot prescribe something general. It will depend on the individuals. You must know the person you are dealing with, and therefore handle appropriately. But the key word in communication in such scenarios is tact. Be tactful. Do not push too much. Do not cajole. Do not blackmail. Because when you do that, then you are creating offensive and somebody is defensive.
Yes.
And therefore communication breaks down. There are other scenarios like neglect in terms of intimacy. If he is too busy, he has not touched you for a long time, how do you say it? Do you bang the cups and plates and stamp on the ground?
You
and
have another woman.
Yeah. And you think he will understand? There must be a way to communicate to him. And this time you might be verbal without saying, you don't care about me anymore. Or, do you have another woman? Are you cheating on me? That is a negative start at communication. You say, honey, I'm missing you. You know, just say it now. we couldn't say certain things now here on air. But you must find a way to communicate to him. How about you, the guy? If she's maybe low and depressed and, not depressed maybe, but distracted. These days women work. Every night she comes back, she's tired. She's tired. She's tired. How do you communicate that?
Yeah.
You must find a way to say, honey, when is the last time we, I don't know.
When was the last time we did it?
Yeah. No, I don't know. But you can say that.
Yes.
As long as you're free with each other. There are other scenarios we talked about earlier. Personal habits, like we talked about earlier. Those are the scenarios in which communication can be blockaded and can face challenges. But we must find, remember the key, how and when. And of course, understanding the individual.
Let's talk about the when.
Yeah.
Because especially for guys, guys have accused women of bringing up issues at the wrong time. I'm going to bed, then you talk about it. I've switched off. I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just come back home. I just want to be in my cave. Don't talk to me, all right? That mean I don't love you, but I've been with the rest of the world now. I want to be alone for some time, then you.
Yeah.
What do you prescribe, you know, particular times, especially for guys, or even for guys to talk to their wives or girlfriends at the right time? When do you think is the appropriate time?
I mean, that's crucial. We talked about the when. I don't know about you, but me and a few other guys I've talked to, when we come back from work, as you said, we don't want to be bombarded. We want to, sometimes you even want to first keep quiet.
Yeah.
And she can say, hi, Annie, and you say, hello. And you first want to create a transition from work to home. Then afterwards, you can small talk. If you have a big issue, don't bring it and say, welcome back. Boom. No. Start with small talk. How was your day? If it's a lady, you want to speak to him, you say, you bring him a cup of tea maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a cup of juice, and you say, how was it? Tell me about your day. How are you feeling? You could massage him a little. That's laying the foundation. You're relaxing him. Yeah?
You're setting him up.
Exactly.
That's the one.
It may not even have to be at that time.
Right.
You have already set it. In my experience, sometimes when people wake up at night, we have a habit of waking up at night, maybe 3, 4, and our minds are very clear. Sometimes discussions which are serious could be had then. Remember then you'll be whispering and talking in low tones. But your mind is clear and your heart is probably calm. That's one good time for discussion. But also, sometimes the home is not ideal to discuss things because in our minds we associate the home with certain patterns. So we could decide to go away to Entebbe Beach or some other place which is quiet. Here we have Serena Gardens. If you can come here. A different environment. It will affect your mind. It will put you in a state as to be able to listen. You could take a walk and you are talking about these things.
Yeah.
You could be jogging together and then you sit down to take a breath and you begin talking about these things. We must take the mind in a different, sometimes a different environment, sometimes the timing, but we must let the mind and heart be calm. Especially when we're going to talk about serious issues which could threaten our relationships. So yes, where and when is very, very important.
All right. Samuel Setumba this morning joining us on Everyday Life, and we're looking at emotional communication in the relationships or marriages that you have. When is the right time to talk? When, how do you even talk about it? And of course, what should you talk about? If you've been going through that thing and your wife is probably frustrated with you and you're not just cutting it, you probably want to leave your marriage or you want to ditch the relationship, some advice this morning could come in handy. Feel free to go to our Facebook page, Morning at NTV, and of course on Twitter at Morning at NTV. You can also use the platform of the SMS line, which is 6565. To couples which are probably that are going through now a crumbling, stage, just paint a picture for us. How crucial is it for you to communicate well with your partner? Because we're kind of raised in a patriarchal society where we think the man will say, fix that, that's it. You don't talk to a man and tell him to shower. What's that? No. You deal with it because I'm the man. And some of us are still stuck in that mindset.
Yeah. Unfortunately, by the time you were in conflict right now, that means communication started breaking down a long time ago.
Right.
But it's not too late to be remedied, for a solution to be found. First, for any successful marriage, it is hard work. Usually I say, it's like if you're going to light a fire, you have to keep putting firewood. You will never get satisfaction and happiness in your marriage if you do not work hard at it.
Yeah.
Now that means you've got to compromise, you've got to cut off on the extremes. For instance, as just a while ago I was thinking about listening, the ability to listen. Sometimes because we are used to talking to people, telling them what to do, it might be difficult to listen.
To receive instruction.
Yeah, maybe not instructions, to listen to, maybe it's a criticism, maybe packaged, even as well packaged, but you are not used to listening. For you to succeed, you must put yourself in the frame of mind to listen. You must allow yourself, you must challenge that inclination you have growing up.
Is it the same thing as good leaders are good followers?
Yeah, all those things can be said, but we've got to live them. We've got to practice them. If I love her very much, is it always loving her because I am the one who is telling her? Can I be able to listen to her? Sometimes whatever she's saying, you must challenge yourself and say, but if I want this thing to work, let me force myself. In fact, sometimes it's force. Let me force myself to listen. If she's going on about this thing of not showering, let me do an effort and change. Because when you change, you lose nothing.
Let me shower today and see what she will say.
Yes, and let me keep on with it. I assure you, you lose nothing. And that's not an emotional thing. It's a mental, decision. You make up your mind and say, okay, she's unhappy about this bathing, and bathing is good. So let me shower. It may be a challenge, you may relapse a bit. And she says, honey, you forgot today. Keep at it. What's wrong with bathing? How about a lady? If she's maybe cooking bad food and the guy says, hey, the food, there's something lacking with the food. Don't take it personal. Are you trying to decipher what he's saying? He says, I would really love to eat your food if you'd improve. I know what some women have done. They have gone to their friends and who know how to cook certain foods.
Yes.
And they have taught them.
Yes.
Or they have asked their friends to come and visit them and teach them how to cook certain things. Now you are proactively.
You don't just black out and don't cook anything.
Yes, you don't become defensive. In fact, when your partner is talking to you, don't become defensive. Try to listen. If you have an answer, first understand what they're trying to say. Sometimes people say things when it's packaged, but they're trying to reach you. They're expressing a need, maybe a problem. And if you want to make it work, the marriage, then you must listen and try to seek for a solution. Sometimes you might be misunderstood, and that's why they are speaking. But how will you be able to understand that you're misunderstood if you don't listen? So listening is important, sometimes quietly. That's why we go back to the when or where. When you're in a calm environment, you're like, okay. You can even ask an adjoining question. Honey, what are you trying to say? I want to understand so that we deal with this thing. That's a positive, encouraging attitude or way of encouraging communication. Right. It's a proactive thing. And many times we've got to challenge the way we are brought up. We've got to challenge extremes. We can't say, for me, I grew up like this. It will not work.
It will not work.
You've got to put effort. So even communication, effort.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And I know some of us may not be going through the best, moments in our lives. And sometimes we speak out of anger and create even more negative feelings. So how do you work that? You might begin by saying, I feel hurt. And someone here saying, I feel hurt. And when you have time, I need your help.
I wanted to say that before, by the way. I'm a journalist, but I'm a professional counselor. We are not allowed to advertise as ethics. That I'm better or what. But I am here. If you have seen me, you can approach. I work at NTV.
Right.
It will be private and it will not be. It will be confidential.
Confidential.
Yeah, that's the hallmark of profession.
Awesome. Let me just take a look at quickly your comments, because we may not be the professionals here, and we are not. Our lives are not perfect, obviously, but we want to help you. We need to help because we need to produce, better citizens. By telling her when we are going to start the love journey, when she's in the mood, people use the sex sometimes. You say what you want during sex. And that, especially for guys, it makes them more alert. Okay, I just end up saying, okay, yes, because I need the sex.
Yeah. It's the wrong, going back to the when, I don't think it's the right time. Because we are distracted. You want to say what you want to say when you are being paid attention to. So don't say it when they are distracted. They are watching TV, you're watching Deception, and you begin saying, they will not listen to you.
Right. When? Quickly, I'll first free her mind when she's from work, then bring the matter. In Juba, avoid being judgmental when informing your partner of anything done wrong. I think this person is watching us from Juba, and he says being polite and straight to the point. Women are good listeners. Well, fantastic. Well, that's very good. Sam, we'll always call on you to come and give us some advice this morning. I feel very inspired. I don't know about you. Of course, continue the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Sam Setumba works here at NTV. You can get onto that page and answer those questions. And if you have any comments, we can talk about this more and more. Isma is standing by here at the rooftop, and of course I can't see him, but Isma, a very good morning to you first of all.
Good morning, Brian.
This morning I wake up to very, very sad news that of course the Ebola virus is still spreading and might interrupt the games that are ahead in the African qualifying. But what do you envisage as, especially for Ugandans, for the Uganda Cranes, do you think it's a smart move for us to say, no, we are not going to travel, regardless of whether the countries, especially Ghana, is not affected by Ebola yet?
I think that's a bit extreme. Uganda will play in Ghana. I can almost promise you that as night follows day. But then thereafter, the games between Uganda and Guinea and the ones between Uganda and Togo will have to be moved to neutral venues, as CAF has advised for so many of the other countries affected by the virus. We all know that in the last round, Seychelles gave away a game against Sierra Leone because they couldn't let the Sierra Leoneans travel to their country, and that is part of the problem. But that's also one of the things we'll be talking about, because yesterday FIFA revealed their plans for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers starting next month, and there's a lot of interesting stuff, including a 2.2 billion shilling budget. I wonder how FIFA are going to raise this money. But as the Premier League gets close, Mesut Ozil has something about the Arsenal, and tomorrow I can almost promise you it will be very hard for me to make it here, because rally is one of my passions, and I'll tell you about why the Pearl of Africa rally is very important.
Well, thank you so much, Isma. In exactly 2 minutes, we'll be back, Mabel, Isma, and I, to talk sport. Stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Use White Star Laundry Bar Soap with a lemon fragrance and you'll have a fresh, clean day. Be like a star. Use White Star.
Don't disturb Daddy. My daddy is a star.
White Star Laundry Bar Soap. All day fresh clean.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right. For better transportation, count for what counts. Census is here from 28th August to 6th September. When you take part in the census, the information you provide is used to make better policies and plans to improve service delivery in your community. Get ready to be counted. Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
Mutima Entertainment, Makudusa Masaka Street Jam! Change your life! Mama tuwe masaka, eno street jam esokede dala. Ogwa mugenda kwe wangulia motoka. Mame motoka, mpulite bulungi. Kulukanga kumina mkaka Agasti 2019. Kwe Edward Avenue, sawa 12 zolwe gulo. Okuyingira mutwalo kumugoka. Mugenda kuwa motoka Jose Chameleone, Radiant Weasel, Ravido Mtuju, Naila Kayondo, Mary Butter, Escape Brand, Tough B, n'abayimbi abalala bangi. Omuli comedians, ne badiji abatakula chuma. Nga VJ Baby Live, ne Slick Stewart. Wena ali kumukutu kwa Airtel, ngokubidemu no wali ku Airtel. Oyizo kuwangulia million 10. Moyizo gule motoka, obe nyumba. Gata kuno geno kuchakalako. Omuli n'amasima galiko free data kumala mwaka mulamba. Jukira buli omagenda kuba muwanguzi. Buli omuwaku yongulidde ekigabiri nga ayogera ne munne. Obutasirika. Olwo omuwanguzi wonna kagenda kwetwalira motoka Toyota Kruger. Okuva mu Airtel. Bino bituusiwako.
Airtel. Together we can.
Terms and conditions apply.
We transact every day, and for centuries, currencies have changed hands. Business is a must, and that is why Money Matters makes it a must to talk business.
It's the biggest market out in Uganda because of East African connections and business.
From farming to business trading, we give you all the angles.
When you're harvesting, that one is the most important part, which you have to be there.
We'll bring you all the details that doing business has to offer.
Thoughts of the business leaders in the market.
The airline industry doesn't operate like any other industry, where you go in and buy a shirt and this shirt is 20 shillings today, it will be 20 shillings tomorrow, 20 shillings.
The analysis of the costs and the income in the industries.
From wherever we are,
we talk business, and at Money Matters,
where money indeed matters. Business is a must.
So, don't miss Talking Business with us every Thursday only on MTV.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Jazz with Isaiah.
Since they cut open my ass, can't tell my lucid dreams from the realities. Epic tale, is it the Greek tragedy?
I taught him the piano when he was 4.
It's been something that I've been influenced by being Ugandan and being American.
Yeah.
It was always different for me though, because in my household, you know, we're listening to different things in a different language, and then I'm going to my friends' houses and we're listening to a whole lot of soul, Isley Brothers.
Intellectual, mental drive, pull the trigger, then run deep down in your spine.
Welcome to the show, Harold.
Jazz with Isaiah.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
A very good morning to you if you're just joining us this morning at NTV, and of course we're still at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel, 15 on to 9, and this morning Isma and Mabel here. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very good.
Good morning, Brian. Happy to see you and your son in the papers today.
Lovely picture.
Thank you.
We are
What's that
inspired.
at? What's that at?
Nze, give me 9 months.
Okay, we shall be counting. You think the 9 months won't pass?
At least I never have to contribute to something like that.
Hey.
Yeah.
Why?
It's such a question. Luckily you asked Mabel. I have no answer to that. I have no answer to that.
Why you'll first go and watch the World Cup then?
Probably after the 20-something Olympics,
The one in
2024.
Qatar. The World Cup in Qatar.
No, after the Olympics must be an
In
occasion
Russia.
that brings everyone together. The World Cup only brings football together, I think, after the Olympics. After Bolt has retired, probably.
Which is like next year, boss.
So, Brian, anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, yeah, please. You hinted that you may not come tomorrow because the Pearl of Africa rally starts tomorrow. Yeah. How do you, first of all, what are your predictions tomorrow? What are your expectations? Set there.
First of all, I'm very excited. I'm very passionate about fast cars, and I'm the first to tell all the fans to stay away from the cars. While we love watching them, we're only safe when they finish the event without hitting anyone. The rally starts tomorrow at Silver Springs Hotel in Bogolobi, but that will be a transport section as they drive towards Matuga before they get into the route and start real racing. Yeah. I've got to say that ever since this event started back in 1996 and Karim Hirja and Frank Nekusa won the first event, it's grown in stature, especially after the Africa Rally Championship admitted it into the ARC calendar back in 2002. But ever since it was admitted in the ARC calendar, the only 5 Ugandans have won this, and actually the other 7 victories have gone to veterans. So when I look at the monitor today and I see Ronald Sebuguzi as the first one to hit the road, and in pursuit will be Gary Chains, Jas Mangat, Mohamed Essa, and Duncan Jasprit Chati. Of those pursuing him, Sebuguzi of course not registered for the Africa Rally Championship. He doesn't score points there, but he's being pursued by one, the lead of the ARC this year, Gary Chains from Ivory Coast, who has 76 points. And then there's Mohamed Essa, a winner here 2 years ago, and actually only a point behind Gary Chains, the ARC standings. So Sebuguzi, there's a lot of fire coming behind you. But I'd be delighted to see probably a Ugandan win, especially if I went there to cheer and chose one. I would choose Ronald Sebuguzi because I think for all the time he's been in motorsport and he's a 2-time national champion, he's not really cut it at this level. And this is, for me, a chance for him. When the big drivers come here, I saw him 2 years ago when Mohamed Essa reduced everyone to 2nd place. Sebuguzi was never in the picture. So probably this is the moment that he's got to see. He's been doing well on the local circuit, has already won 2 rallies. So I think it's important that he goes there and believes he can win. But I've got to say, it's going to be thrill, especially seeing Gary Chains and Essa go for that African Rally title. It will be very exciting.
Well, if you're just joining us, also to remind you that we've generated something cool and awesome, and want you to be part of it. On our Facebook page, we've put up the question: who do you predict to win the English Premier League coming season? Please feel free to get in your comments, of course, on our Facebook page. Right here on my left, some of your comments, and of course, we'll be reading through, we'll be surfing through them at the end of the segment. But you can see some of the action that is going on right now. So please feel free to add your comments, and of course on Twitter at morning@NTV.
Well, are KCC through to the quarterfinals of the Sekafa Kagame Cup?
Yes, they are. I think after that sucker punch they suffered against Djibouti Telecom, George Nsimbe got back and knew that they've got to do the business. And yesterday they beat up on Atletico from Burundi by a goal to Brian Omon scoring the goal from a penalty in the 21st minute. A game that I thought that after KCC got that goal, they just shut shop. They just slowed the game down, made it extremely boring. For me, it felt like the words of the former Real Madrid sporting director, Jorge Valdano, when he called the Liverpool-Chelsea game, watching something hanging from a stick. The words I couldn't even say on this show. But it was that poor, I think, in terms of the performance after they got the goal. But you've got to say that that was, for me, a tactical masterclass. At the moment you get the result you need, which I thought they should have done even against Djibouti Telecom, which they didn't, just make the game as slow and boring as possible and that's the reason why KCC are through. And thereafter, we'll see, after all the other games are completed, there's Azam, there's Ryan Sport already through to see who they'll play in the quarterfinals later in the week.
Right. Yeah. Now, yesterday, FUFA released some of the plans for Uganda Cranes for the AFCON 2015 qualifiers. Please tell us some of the highlights.
First of all, they have a budget of 2.2 billion to be spent in 2 months. And that is for the 6 qualifying games for Uganda Cranes. And then there are 2 for the under-17s who have that 2015 Africa Under-17 Championship to play for.
Where's the money coming from?
Now, that's a bigger problem. Because recently they've been getting a lot of support from government. Because in the last game against Mauritania, they got 344 million shillings from government. So probably they are running errands around State House and Ministry of Education and National Council of Sports at this point in time. Secondly, the charges for the gates are not going to be increased. That was one of my fears, that after the previous 2 games against Madagascar and Mauritania, people complained about the 20,000. Now there was this hullabaloo all over social media that the charges would be increased to 40,000. FUFA confirmed it will remain at 20,000 for the next games.
For every game?
For every game, the home fixtures. 3, and this is probably the most important, Uganda will have midweek games in the qualifying campaign for the first time in ages. There is one that comes out on September 10th when Guinea visit Namboli. That will start at 7:30 p.m. under floodlights at Namboli. So you should look out for some of those. Sometimes probably will be very convenient for those coming from work in midweek to make it to Namboli.
And that's in like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
3-4 weeks.
Yeah, and it's going to be quite an experience for everyone, I think.
That would be fun, though.
It would be fun. I remember the first time I attended a floodlight game was in 1999, an Express Sekafa game, and then it took me another 6 years to attend another, which was between Police and Villa when the league was decided on knockout format back in 2005. So everyone should be ready for that. And all the other midweek games seems like will be played at night, but those won't be here. Uganda will have traveled outside. We'll be playing probably in Togo or in Guinea. But on September 10th, that game will be under floodlights.
It's going to be a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said near Nambol. I should watch that match.
What would you be doing between 7:30 and 10 p.m.?
I should. Yeah.
Well, moving on to Deutschland, tell us more about last night's game, Bayern Munich and Dortmund. What is it telling us about the Bundesliga?
First of all, the team that will be favourites for the Bundesliga again lost the fixture because Dortmund beat up on Bayern by 2-0. 2 goals from Henrik Mkhitaryan and then the other from Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to win Dortmund the tie. But then through the game, before I talk about the Bundesliga, will be when it starts next week, is that I had a stat from a commentator that is amazing, that in all the years that Germany have won the World Cup, Bayern don't win the league.
Who sits down to think of these crazy statistics?
Exactly. But I think while Dortmund may be too far off,
it could be just chance.
Yeah. Dortmund are still able to beat up on Bayern in the one-off game because 1 year ago when Guardiola just come in, Dortmund won that fixture by 4-2. What happened thereafter is that Bayern won the league with a whooping 19 points difference between them and Dortmund, who were second. So you're hoping, I think everyone will hope that the margin will be smaller. I think Dortmund will be a better team slightly, even without Robert Lewandowski who moved to Bayern Munich, their lead striker. But I think they'll be a better team defensively because they've signed some players there. Last year they struggled with that, having Mats Hummels and Neven Subotic. Now they've signed players in that area, especially the guy they got from Hertha Berlin, Ginter, and then they will probably have Papastathopoulos play a bit more this season. So I'm hoping that Dortmund could be competitive, but I think the omens on them competing are not very good. That Bayern team is still a machine. They haven't signed many players. They still have the core of the side that lost the league last season, that won the league last year and lost the Champions League. But they've had a Lewandowski, and that's 25 goals for them.
Wow, it's very scary. But it feels Dortmund and Bayern feels like Celtics and Rangers. Yeah.
These days Rangers are just fighting to get back into the league because they were relegated when they went into administration. They are now back into Scottish
Championship. You're saying the first and the...
But like when Celtic was up 20 points clear, Rangers would just come and beat up on it out of the blue. You're like, now who is...
Who are the Rangers?
What is that? So it feels like that, Dortmund and Bayern. But the verdict on Suarez's case is on today. How I pray that they say let him go to Arsenal, but what's the end game?
the verdict is on the Barca special. It's not about him joining Arsenal.
That's how desperate.
Barcelona. Maybe joining Barcelona.
But I think his lawyers are making the case that the ban should only be served for the national team. because he committed the offense while playing for Uruguay, and this club shouldn't be punished the
Then it
same
should
way.
be extended to maybe a whole year.
Probably for Uruguay. No, Barcelona would care less if he's not playing for Uruguay. And I think that's the main argument. And that verdict will come up later today. And this is probably the most controversial footballer of the last 15 or 20 years. No wonder I love him. I love controversy. But if, I have a feeling that he'll get the ban reduced, but not to the proportions that everyone wants, everyone within his Lego team wants, and probably not what Barcelona want. But I think it gets to this that Suarez is very lucky that the judicial system allowed him to go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, which is one of the better courts, I think, in sport. Because for all the people I've known who have been banned, whenever they've gone to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, their bans have been reduced. Back in the 90s, Edgar Davids had a drug ban in Juventus of 8 months, which was reduced to 3. All these drug cheats, or Alberto Contador, the cyclist from the Tour de France, former Tour de France winner, went to this court and was banned for 2 years. It was reduced to 5 months. All these people who take stories, go to the Court of Arbitration for Sport and get their bans reduced. I have a feeling that this is the most kind court in the history of the world. And Suarez will get that kindness. Though I don't think many will feel he deserves it.
Talking about people being banned, this lady of Botswana actually her sample B tested positive during in the Commonwealth Games, and she has 2 weeks to appeal. Do you think
she's in big trouble? Mantle Motsho, the former world champion and silver medalist 1 year ago in Moscow, the World Athletics champion. I think she's in big trouble. Because normally after your A sample, they go for the B sample, and if both prove that you're taking drugs, normally the minimum is a 2-year ban. But I think because the Court of Arbitration for Sport is here, she'll probably get one after she appeals, something close to that.
Right.
Okay, moving on. Mesut Ozil, I think, performed very well during the World Cup, better than he does usually for Arsenal. He thinks they really have a good chance this season. What's backing this sentiment?
I think one of the things that should back Arsenal's expectations ahead of the Premier League is that they have not sold their best players. That for me was the problem.
And they are now of age.
And now, on the other hand, they are adding to the squad. I think the squad is bigger. And Mesut Ozil says that the winning mentality is going to carry from the German team. Him with Per Mertesacker and Lukas Podolski is going to help the side on the pitch in the Premier League. We'll wait to see that because there are teams that have all these winners around them, and when they walk onto the pitch and you're looking at entirely garbage. So you have a feeling that I'm in Ozil's position. I think Arsenal will perform much better than they have in recent seasons. Actually, I went for them to finish second, behind Chelsea, who I think will be champions.
And Man U?
Man U, I think, will come in fourth. Will take fourth place, just behind Man City. But I think Arsenal genuinely are due an improvement. When you have this kind of faith and loyalty that Arsene Wenger has had to the club, and that is returned for many of them, they are due something good. They are due something better than they've been in the last 7 years.
Speaking of Man U, it's on to something. And, well, for me, I'm quite scared about Man U because they have a fantastic coach. What are they up to now?
They've been trying to sign a player from Sporting Lisbon called Marcos Rojo. Rojo was part of the Argentine team at the World Cup. And now, what is happening is that his club, Sporting Lisbon, have banned him, have fined him, and isolated him from Spain, which means contract. I've got to say, while he's training, you honor the contract by training. Will sell him.
He'll be here with Lumans. Others. We talked about that.
I hope this story is also about
all day fresh clean.
By UBOS, It's Yours is here. From 20 better policies and plans to improve. Brought to you by UBOS.
We know internet.
That